Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu role-playing rules by Chaosium. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Listeners should know that this podcast is intended for a mature audience and may include strong language and mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and so forth, that may bear resemblance to entities living, dead, or undead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Rena Henze, and for tonight's game, I will be your keeper. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a special side quest episode of the Old Ways podcast. Normally, I am your storyteller Rena, but tonight we are not playing Vampire the Masquerade. We are playing Call of Cthulhu. In fact, we are playing the classic scenario, the Necropolis, set in 1924 Egypt, and you might hear some familiar voices. All right, so we need to hear from our players and their characters first. So to my right.
Hi, this is James, and I'll be playing Sergeant Trevor McCoy, the head of security on this dig in Egypt. Honestly, as long as they're paying me in sterling, I don't care.
Well, let's hope you're around to get paid in the end. And next to the good sergeant, we have...
Hi, this is Allie, and I play Dr. Baker, and I know lots of languages, but this is actually my first time to Egypt, and I could not be more excited.
Yes, very, very, very exciting. And next to good Dr. Baker, we have...
Hi, my name's Tegan, and I'm playing Dr. Arizona Jones. I am an archaeologist from Nevada.
Yes, you are. And last but not least...
Hello, my name's Patrick McNamara, and I'm playing Percy Lethbridge Stewart, who's here to make sure that everything about this project stays on time, and that we've got the right sort of person in charge. You know, I'm very keen on management. I've taken a course, and I have thorough belief in my own ability to run this dig. I think we're all going to have a smashing time, and Daddy will be very proud of me.
I'm sure he will. Nothing could potentially go wrong. So the four of you wake up. It is dark. It is cold. You don't know where you are. You don't know how you got here, wherever here is. You can't see anything. And you feel like you're laying on some cold, hard stone of some kind.
Ow.
Was this expected? Is this how I went to sleep?
No.
Well, look here. Is some kind of prank going on, chaps? Are you engaging in hazing with old Percy? Where are we?
The rest of you hear his lordship asking that question.
Are you okay, Percy?
Oh, I think so. I all limbs present and correct. Oh, thank you very much for asking. How are you all doing? I think it's very important for one to check in on one's underlings.
Honestly, I'm cold.
Oh, me too, yes. And it's also very dark.
Lord Percy must be alive, as only someone who's alive can use that many words.
Yeah, that was terribly well observed, yes.
Wait, we're missing someone.
I light my lighter.
Oh, yes, a cigarette would be perfectly nice about this time. Thank you very much. Light one up.
I wonder where we are.
So, as the sergeant fiddles with his lighter and manages to get it open, pull it out of your pocket, you all sort of recoil a little bit from the sudden bright light in this dark place, and you find yourselves laying on stone in some kind of tunnel or cavern. It's very dark in here. You see stone around you. It's kind of hard to see anything with just the lighter, this tiny flickering light, but you do catch a glimpse of what looks like wall paintings on the side of these walls. And you all look rather like you've just been sort of dropped in here.
Now, tell me, chaps, did we engage in some kind of joviality that I'm not remembering? Did we all get, super smashing trolleyed? And now we're and find ourselves in a strange tunnel? Because as I recall, I simply went to bed. I I don't remember getting trolleyed. But this kind of thing has happened to me before, back at uni.
Trevor sits up and rubs his head a little. I've woken up with many a bender. This unfortunately is not a bender. We are, I would say Shanghaied, but I don't know. Someone slipped us a Mickey, perhaps?
Oh, Mickey.
Why don't you all roll intelligence for me? So your head's hurt. You're trying to figure out through the haze how you got here. See if you can remember things.
I rolled a 96. My understanding is that is not good.
No. So, your lordship, you're having a really nasty headache right now. It's worse than any hangover you've ever had, and everything's kind of muddled, and you're not really sure why you're in here.
I rolled a 69 out of 70. Nice.
Sergeant McCoy rolled a 6 under 55, an extreme success, and he offers a cigarette to Lord Percy.
Oh, thank you kindly. No, I'm certain that this is. I feel certain that joviality was involved in this somewhere. Like, my head feels like it's got a Frenchman living in it, and I can't. I feel like you're all playing a terrible trick on me at the moment. I like the occasional port, but I don't normally get this excessive. But let's find our way back to camp.
How did you do, Allie, on your roll?
19 under 60, so hard.
Okay, so the two academic doctors, Dr. Jones and Dr. Baker, you remember, yes, you're clearing the fog a little bit, and you remember yesterday, after 3 months, you've been out here for 3 months. It's been hot, the flies have been everywhere, there's been lots of digging, and nothing's really been coming to fruition, even though you were told that there is a tomb or a temple out here that is yet undiscovered and that would put the likes of Howard Carter to shame. You haven't found it. And it was getting frustrating, and you were all getting on each other's nerves, and there was on the point of maybe an academic fight breaking out between Dr. Jones and Dr. Baker, and then you heard someone yelling something yesterday in one of the local dialects of Arabic, and yes, your foreman, Abdullah, came in and he told you they'd found something. They'd found the entrance to a tomb. It was covered with a huge stone slab, but they found it. And you got very excited and started planning out the next day's excavation because it was already close to sunset. You couldn't open it yet, but you were very excited about it. Sergeant McCoy, with that extreme, you remember all sitting around the campfire that night, talking about how you were going to go into the tomb, in what order, what you would find, what the procedures were going to be for getting any treasure out, all that sort of thing. And tea was being passed around as your end of day routine, and young serving lad, one of the local boys, was passing things around, and you started feeling woozy. And his lordship said something along the lines of, "I say, what did you put in this?" And you remember him just sort of passing out? And you tried to reach for him? So tired. And you passed out.
Clever boy. All right. Well, I think I figured out how it got here, or at least how it started. Dr. Baker, let me help you, please. He offers a hand to Dr. Baker to help her off the floor.
Why, thank you.
Dr. Jones?
I'm going to unceremoniously just drag Trevor over to a wall so I can look and see if these are hieroglyphics or not, because I'm very excited about what's going on.
Say, Miss Baker. This is a bit forward, but would you like to use my light, perhaps?
No, just stand there. I need steady light so that I can see exactly what I'm doing.
You'd actually be surprised how much I've been paid to just stand here at this dig so far.
Is anyone missing anything?
Are there a general sense of purpose? I don't believe so. I pat myself down. Am I still armed?
You still have your gun, but it's not where it would normally be for you, Sergeant, on your hip. It's like it's been hastily shoved under your coat as if someone was hiding it there.
I check to see if it's loaded.
It is. You have 6 rounds.
Well, there's that. Well, whoever it was apparently didn't fear us enough that they disarmed me. And I seem to still have everything, including some of my faculties. So we should find our way out of here. As soon as you're done, of course, Dr. Baker.
So, Dr. Baker, you're having a look at these cave paintings, and yes, they are Egyptian tomb paintings, actually, as far as you can tell. They're still really brightly colored, for the most part, like they haven't been exposed to a lot of air. There's the deep blues and the reds and the golds and the greens that you expect from a tomb painting. And you see a lot of fairly familiar figures here, the shabtis and the canopic jars and all these other things. But something about it feels a little off. And I'm going to have you make a hieroglyphics roll for me. And while Dr. Baker's doing that, Lord Percy and Dr. Jones, what are you doing?
I'm having a cigarette, and I'm feeling rather self-congratulatory about the fact that we appear to have found exactly what I was looking for, which is a tomb that puts old Howard Carter the Farter to shame. So I'm sitting here thinking, luxuriating back on memories of my excellent management and overseeing skills and how it's led us all up to this point, and thinking about how I'm going to present this back at home to Daddy and how proud he'll be of me.
Meanwhile, I'm going to take a look around the spaces and try to get a sense for how large the room we're in is.
What light source are you using? Are you lighting another match? Are you just using the little lighter at the end of Lord Percy's cigarette?
No, I'm looking around to see if there's anything flammable in the general area or if there's anything I can spare off my own person in order to build some sort of torch.
Okay. Well,
I have some matches, if that helps.
Yes, his lordship does have some matches.
Matches are fantastic.
Please, go ahead.
I'll take that out and my flask, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and take a strip of my sleeve. Now I just need some sort of stick. Does anybody have a cane?
I don't, but Rena, do I still have a survival knife of some sort?
You do?
Excellent. I wrap the soaked cloth around the end of the knife and hand him the handle.
Fantastic.
This should suffice.
I'll take that knife and I will begin to try to figure out the boundaries of the space we are in.
Fantastic. So, Dr. Jones, you set this makeshift torch alight, and you suddenly have a lot more light in here. The first thing that I'm going to have you do is give me a spot hidden. We'll get to you in a second, Dr. Baker. You'll also be able to see more, Dr. Baker, with this stronger light source, so I might be able to give you some extra things.
We've got a round 40 under a round 50.
All right. So, the first thing that you notice, Dr. Jones, the smoke is staying in here. The smoke from the torch and the smoke from the cigarette and the lighter, it's not dispersing the way it would if there was any kind of ventilation, which leads you to assume the oxygen is fairly limited in here.
Oh. We may have a small problem. It appears that we are in a confined space. I'm failing to identify if smoke is moving out of the space at all. It's just lingering, like you said.
As far as you can tell at the moment. The next thing you notice is behind you all, behind where you woke up, there is what looks like a massive stone slab, and it is covered with strange symbols from top to bottom, as far as you can tell. The other end of this tunnel, hallway, whatever it is wreathed in shadows, and you'd have to move further down in that direction to see what's down there.
I'd like to do so slowly.
Okay, so Dr. Jones is going to start moving down the hallway towards the shadows. Dr. Baker, how did you do with your roll?
I rolled a 38 under 70, so
okay.
Not quite a hard.
Not quite a hard. Okay. So with a regular success, you notice that something is odd here about these figures. First off, it looks like there's a pharaoh being depicted here. You see, got the crossed crook and the flail and the 2 crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt, but the crook and the flail are upside down, how he's holding them, which is a little strange. And the upper and lower crowns, instead of one being red, one being white, they're both black.
I've never seen anything like this before.
He's a rather striking fellow, isn't he?
How much light do I have, like, one direction or the other?
So Dr. Jones is moving down the hallway, so if you follow him, then you'd be able to read more of what's going on with these images down in that direction.
Yeah, I'll follow him for sure, but I'm only moving as fast as that light moves because I gotta take all this in. There's so much to look at.
Would you like to push the roll and see if you can learn some more?
Yes.
I'm going to sort of just trot along because I've realized that I'm running out of light. So I'm following and I'm managing from the rear. I'm letting people know, now come on everyone, we're doing jolly well. The hard part is over. Now it's time for us to self-actualize our paradigm and get through this next stage of the dig, which is, well, where all the glory happens.
I think first we might need to find, or at least secure ourselves, and exit before we go any deeper.
Oh, quite, because we'll need to be able to get to the press. And they're all outside the tomb.
So I rolled a 22 under 70, which is a hard success.
All right, so with the hard success, as Lord Percy is going on about the great discovery and how his wonderful leadership has led you this far, you follow Dr. Jones down this hallway, and you're looking at all of these images. The further you go into the tunnel, the brighter the images get, the fresher the paint is. And you notice there's some cracks in the walls in various places, almost like there's been earth shifting. But it looks fairly stable as far as you can tell, but who cares? You're more interested in the pictures. And the hieroglyphs that you're reading and the images that accompany them tell a very interesting story to you, Dr. Baker. It tells the story of a pharaoh. And this pharaoh is not named, but he's not someone that you've ever heard of or that you can figure out who it is based on the images, because he just looks so different. And you can't even tell what era this is, like which dynasty. But he was considered to be very powerful and cruel, evil. You see images of him in this very, stylized Egyptian design, crushing the skulls of his enemies under his feet. There's one where he's seated in a throne, covered with serpents, and holding that upside-down crook and flail, and his feet, which should be in the typical sort of Osiris position, are being driven through 2 prone enemies who have been subjugated. And as you go on, these kind of horrifying, uncomfortable images talks about how he experimented on these captives to learn the secret of eternal life, essentially. That he was seeking eternal life. And with that hard success, Dr. Baker, this strikes you as odd. Because for ancient Egyptians, the afterlife was the real thing. This life was just a shadow. It was the precursor to the glory of the afterlife. So they were actually kind of excited about death, as long as it was proper death. And so it's very odd to you that there would be a cult of some kind or a pharaoh looking for eternal life in this world.
So the normal traditional rites of like moving on and going into the pharaoh becoming the rising sun and everything, none of that is present. Well, motherfucker.
Does it mention anywhere where all the jewels and gold to be found. Perhaps a golden scepter or some kind of crown. Is it anywhere in the hieroglyphic? No? No? Okay. Well, carry on.
So, Dr. Baker, I'd like a sanity roll from you.
Oh, god damn it.
I know. It's just uncomfortable to you how different these images are and just how wrong it feels.
85 over 50.
Okay? You're only going to lose 1 point of sand for that, but...
Hey, I'll take it.
All right. So, Dr. Jones, as you're carrying your makeshift torch down the hallway.
Yes, I wanted to look for something.
Okay. What are you looking for?
Before we get too far away from where we were sleeping, a thought occurs to me. How we got in here. And I want to lean down and see how dusty the floor is and see if there might be any trace of the tracks of the individuals that left us in there, how they got us in, maybe drag marks through sand.
All right, give me a spot hidden. With a hard success on your spot hidden, you, as you're moving down the hallway, you get a thought and you stop, you turn, you look at where you came in. Looks like the drag marks came from the other end that you're moving away from, where that stone slab with the strange symbols are. You see very faint, but it looks like they dragged you in and dropped you in front of the slab and fucked off.
But was that a closed slab?
Oh yes, it's just a massive 8-foot stone slab.
With that, I immediately stop what I'm doing and I run to the other side and try to feel against that hard slab and see if there's any way to move it.
All right, so Dr. Baker, you're suddenly left with just the sergeant's little lighter and Lord Percy's cigarette. Sergeant, you see Dr. Jones suddenly turn and go running back the other direction. What do you do?
Seems to be the problem. Dr. Jones, what, is there something we should be concerned about?
Look at the floor. You can see where they dragged us in here. They've, oh my god. I think, how big was the slab? How large was it?
Well, in this case, size doesn't matter. It's 8 feet. 8 feet tall, and it's about 4.5 feet wide.
I throw my shoulder into it.
I don't think if all 4 of us put together with horses on top could move that. If that's the way we came in and it's closed now, we're trapped that way. There's only one way other.
Dr. Jones, if you're going to break down the slab, can I at least have your torch?
I hand Dr. Baker my torch.
And you start trying to push the slab open?
I know I'm not going to succeed, but I have to at least try.
Give me a strength roll. Lord Percy, you just see your archaeologist run at the slab.
I would like to make a psychology roll. I'm going to try and get everyone to feel a little bit better about what's happening, because there's really no need to panic at all. These kind of things happen on digs. Occasionally one gets trapped in a tomb by some merry pranksters, and it's nothing to really worry about. So let's all just jolly along. And I'm sure we'll be out of here in a jiffy with some kind of scepter and possibly a giant golden crown.
So, Dr. Jones, you don't open the slab. It doesn't move a bit, but you're feeling slightly panicky now as you run at the slab and you just sort of nudge your shoulder a bit. I'd like you to make a sanity roll as you realize you're trapped in here.
Fantastic.
Dr. Baker, it says quite a bit, it seems to say quite a bit about the man, and this is his tomb, as it were?
Yes.
So someone had to have built the tomb, yes?
Well, of course. It's not like tombs appear out of nowhere.
Well, this whole day has appeared out of nowhere. There has to be a way out. Anything that is built by a man can be destroyed by a man, yes? Dr. Jones, calm yourself. There, we will find a way out, I'm sure.
Dr. Jones, you can give me an archaeology roll to see, as they're talking, see if it nudges something in your memory. Lord Percy, they're not really listening to you. How dare they?
Failed my archaeology roll. I have a 70 in archaeology. I have rolled an 89. I can't even remember if there are other exits.
Well, you're calming a bit because Lord Percy's speech is lulling you a little bit. Okay, and you're racking your brains.
And I've offered you a cigarette.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely smoke a cigarette.
You take a cigarette. Would you like to push the roll?
My archaeology roll?
Yes.
Oh, dear God, yes, I do. That is a hard success. 20 out of 70.
Dr. Jones, your hands are trembling a bit, but you take this cigarette from his lordship and you allow it to calm your nerves a little bit. He reminds you, we're going to get out. It'll be fine. Don't worry. And so it calms you enough to let you actually focus and think on what you know about these kinds of tombs. And you remember that in pretty much every tomb of anyone important, you would have some kind of, even if it's buried, a back entrance, right? Because the front entrance would have to be sealed when the corpse was brought in, and then the priests wouldn't need a way to exit.
So Jones will simply say, okay, if the front entrance is sealed, there must be some sort of auxiliary entrance, some way for workers to escape.
I often find there's always a back door.
I mean, back at college, I was so good at finding these places. They used to call me Rear Entrance Percy. So I'm sure we'll be fine.
I'm so they did, Percy. And your skills, I'm certain, will come to pass and be quite valuable. So, let us apply them. Let's apply them to this tunnel, shall we?
Hopefully before the air runs out. If you look up, you'll notice our smoke is gathering.
Yeah, the smoke is getting a bit heavy in here the longer you stay in here, and it's not really moving that much.
I say, gosh, and then light a third cigarette.
All right, well, Percy has his part handled, so we definitely should move. Dr. Baker, I know you're interested in the walls, and believe me, your interest is contagious, but we need to move along.
I agree.
So you go back down towards the other end of the hall?
Aye, yes.
Okay. So you move along this hallway, and Dr. Baker, your attention is redrawn to some of these images, and you start picking them back up again. Sergeant, you notice that there's these cracks in the walls, and they get larger the further down you go. And you can give me an intelligence or education roll, Sergeant, whichever is better for you, and see if you figure something out from that. While you're doing that, Dr. Jones, you are carrying the torch down the end of the hallway.
Actually, I believe I gave the torch to our Dr. Baker.
Oh, Dr. Baker.
Yes, I have it.
So, Dr. Baker, are you carrying the torch down the hallway?
Yes, but I'm trailing behind because I'm trying to scan over the hieroglyphics to see if there's more to this story that I should be aware of as we're delving deeper into the tomb.
So it's slow going because Dr. Baker keeps stopping to look at every single set of images as you move down the hallway.
Dr. Baker, you can read these?
Yes, of course I can, Dr. Jones. I wouldn't be stopping to look at them if I couldn't.
If any of them signal a way out, I'm sure you'd tell the rest of us.
Of course, it's not like this tomb should be undiscovered.
Is there possibly one of these hieroglyphics some form of arrow and the word exit or egress, or I'm imagining it will be the Egyptian equivalent of these words, but that would then if we could follow the arrow, you see, and find out where the exit is. That's my current thinking.
Well, Lord Percy, what you have to understand is the hieroglyphics aren't so direct.
Well, we want one that does direct us, yes.
I meant in translation, Lord Percy.
Have you tried pronouncing them out loud?
So while they're having this conversation, Sergeant, you've been looking at these cracks in the walls. You even see a few places where it looks like you could even move this part of the painting and see behind it if you wanted to, because it's not completely removable, but it's cracked enough that you think maybe there could be something behind there. The other thing you notice is the way these patterns are forming, because you were a bit of a sapper in the war, right? And you know tunnel formation and so on. This place looks like it could be just one earthquake away from falling apart.
That worries me more than anything. The cracks in the walls, Dr. Jones, I think will supply us with more than enough oxygen. Provided, of course, that we don't run a marathon in here. However, I think perhaps we may not have as long as you think. One good shake and this whole place will come down on us. And as I said, Dr. Baker, I don't plan on this being our tomb as well as this fellow here. And he taps the hieroglyphics with a knuckle. Now, if you could shift the light just a bit this way. And he's going to try to look behind the cracked area, the hieroglyphics, and if he has to remove a piece, he does so as carefully as possible in order to not shatter it, because he's not a heathen. He understands why we're here. He just moves a plate of it and hands it to Dr. Baker and looks behind.
Okay, so you'll have to give me a strength roll, because you're going to have to extend the cracking somewhat to actually pull a piece out. And because you're intentionally trying to do it without breaking anything, it needs to be a hard success.
Well, the first one was not so great. It was a 92 out of 80. However,
Would you
nothing.
like to push the roll?
I would love to push the roll.
Yay!
Is it possible for Percy to help with this?
Yes.
He chooses not to.
Oh, okay. So if no one is helping...
Sergeant, or Trevor plants his feet and rolls his sleeves up, eyes it up and down, and then gives it the old military try. I would say for Queen and Country, but honestly, they haven't treated me that well, so just for me. And
Isn't it King and Country at this point in the 20s?
it would be King and Country, actually. Yes, you're right.
All right, so push that roll. Remember, something bad will happen if you fail.
37 under 80 for a hard success.
Which is what you needed. Excellent. Although, So you put your hands in the crack and you gently pull it apart. You're able to leverage your shoulder a bit so that you can remove this piece, just crack it more. You manage to pull this plate, not plate, but it's rock and plaster and then paint and everything, and you lift it off, and it comes away from the wall without doing too much more damage to it because it was already cracking, right? And what you see behind looks like some kind of shelf. There's a couple clay pots and what looks like... Oh, that's a mummified cat and a mummified dog there. Oh my.
Actually, I had an aunt that had a cat that got into the wall, and this exact same thing happened. They found it like 3 months later. But, Dr. Jones, Dr. Baker, is any of this bric-a-brac useful or important? And Percy, Lord Percy.
Oh,
Look, it's a discoverable thing.
A discoverable thing? Perhaps I can apply my education and know something about it.
Perhaps.
In this case, your lordship, it would be occult.
Well, that's not the worst role for me.
We shall all gaze upon it.
And you can give me archaeology, Dr. Baker, Dr. Jones.
So I got a normal success.
Okay. So...
I've got an extreme success. Sorry.
And Dr. Baker, what'd you get?
Well, I was going to ask Keeperina if I could roll anthropology instead. Because it is human stuff.
You get different things based on what I ask you to roll. So you can roll anthropology. It might give you something.
All right.
Maybe. Who knows?
Not out of 66 out of 50.
Okay. So you casually look at it. It doesn't really mean anything to you. You've probably read something about it in a book, but you're too busy looking for cartouches and things, which is another weird thing, Dr. Baker. You haven't found a single cartouche. Not a single one. And a cartouche is what carries the name of a person. That's what you put your personal name in. It's how your immortality is assured, right? But you're hunting and you don't find one, so keep looking. Yeah. Meanwhile, Lord Percy, on your regular success on the occult, you pick up on a couple things here. The first thing is these are often used as protection, right? It's protective spirits. So they're fully mummified, wrapped in bandages. They probably have amulets buried in the wrappings. These were probably well-loved pets that are here to keep out evil spirits. You know, multiple occult practices that call for such things. And so that makes sense to you where it is. Dr. Jones, with your extreme success in archaeology, you know that the wealthier someone was, the more of these kinds of things they would have buried with them. There's probably a lot more lining these walls behind these paintings. These mummified remains of favorite pets or just powerful animals that would have strong spiritual resonance, all that sort of thing. These jars probably, these little pots probably aren't worth anything. They're probably just carrying grain or something that would be an offering to the spirit of these animals. But you would bet that there's a lot of them based on the length of this hallway.
So I, now being a little bit worried about the possibility of evil spirits, am aware that, and I'm fully aware of the function of these creatures. I'm going to pick the cat up and I'm going to hold it in front of me as a shield against any evil spirits. I'm a little superstitious.
Lord Percy picks up the mummified cat and just starts holding it out in front of him.
I must say, Lord Percy, you are the first person who I've ever seen to brandish a pussy in such a manner. However, I don't know if that's going to be actually that useful here. We should probably do something with it that perhaps would not cause it to break down. Waving it about, I don't know if it's going to be useful, Dr. Baker, Dr. Jones. I'm no expert. However, Percy, Lord Percy, have you perhaps noticed anything with your fantastic observation skills? Have you noticed a way out, perhaps? Or some sort of arrow or trigger as you were talking?
I have not so far, but I consider myself to be in more of a supervisory role. I'm just making sure that the team is getting along and that we're all sort of working efficiently. And now, I was worried about the possibility of evil spirits, but now I have my cat.
Ah, fantastic.
So, Dr. Baker, as they're having this conversation behind you, you've been moving down this hallway with the torch looking for those cartouches, right? And before you realize it, you find yourself at the end of the hallway. Still no cartouches, which is really fucking weird. But, you see the end of this hallway is blocked the way the other end is, but it looks like plaster of some kind, not stone. That's interesting. And then you turn a little bit more and the light reflects off of something. And you see what wow, that's a massive gold box. Maybe a chest of some kind. It's got those poles through it, like in the Ark of the Covenant kind of thing that you would see where it could be carried. And those look like they're made of gold too. It's super shiny. And then you notice that it looks like it's pointing towards you, one end of it towards the plaster. Is that a hole behind it? Yeah, there's a hole in the plaster.
Dr. Jones, you should come look at this, I think.
I oblige Dr. Baker.
So you see this massive gold chest. It is covered with hieroglyphs and symbols, and it looks to you from the outside to be pure gold.
Offer a congratulatory nip from my flask to Lord Percy.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes, jolly good. Now, let me rub my cat on it to make sure there's no evil spirits. But otherwise, this is quite an impressive box you have here.
Can I take my trowel and just try to make the tiniest mark in the gold to confirm that it's real?
Oh yeah, you're able to do that fairly easily. It's soft, like gold.
Yes. Okay.
And Lord Percy's waving his mummified cat over it.
How much would this whole thing weigh, would I estimate?
Well, you haven't tried to pick it up, but if it's gold all the way through, it looks like it's at least 100 pounds.
Is it openable?
There's a lid.
Oh. I look at my benefactor and say, would you like to do the honors?
Tell you what, I'm going to wield my cat to make sure that there's no, in case an evil spirit comes out of it,
Yes.
Charlie here will take care of those spirits. You can feel free to do the honors.
I will use my trowel to attempt to lift up the lid.
So you move your trowel and realize you can actually just push the lid off. It's just a lid that goes on top. And
I'm wary of booby traps.
it's beautiful and it's shiny and so many different symbols are carved into it. And it's really beautiful and it's probably worth a lot. And you push the lid off with your trowel, move it, and there's just a bit of cold, dusty air. You push, the lid falls off to the ground with a loud clang. And the box is empty. Except for what looks like a couple amber beads in the bottom.
Well, it's still gold. That's still a pretty good find.
And you have a place to put your cat?
Oh no, I'm holding on to Charlie. There could still be dead spirits in here.
Did you say there was a hole in the wall somewhere?
Yes, behind the chest, you move around looking at it, there is what looks like, it looks almost to you, I'm not going to make you roll for this, it looks like someone pushed this chest through the plaster, creating this hole.
Oh really? It's a chest-shaped hole.
Well, it's fractured a bit more than that because it was pushed through, it looks like, but there's bits of plaster laying on the ground. You actually see some plaster dust at the end of the other end of the chest where it was pushed through.
So the hole's big enough to look through?
Yeah, you could probably crawl through it to the other side.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'd like to look into it.
Okay. With the light source.
Why did you specify that?
Because it's dark, Tegan.
Okay.
It's a tomb.
I would like to look deeper into the chest-shaped hole in the tomb with my light source.
Okay. So, are you taking the torch from Dr. Baker? Do you have a cigarette? What are you using as your light source?
You mean my light source?
Yeah, I'm requesting the light source. With a gesture, of course.
There's a reluctant handing over. Can I find one of my candles?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna light a candle because this still has symbols on it, and I'm gonna see if there's any fucking cartouches on it.
Okay.
So, if the hole is on the floor, do I need to get prone in order to look through it?
You don't have to get prone, but you do have to sort of crouch down because it's further down. And you hold up the torch, you crouch, you look through, and you can't quite see all the way through. You think you see some shadows, but they don't look like they're moving, so maybe there's objects in the other room.
How thick is the hole?
It's kind of hard to determine without getting in it.
I'm wise to your ploys. I'm gonna go in the hole.
All right. So Dr. Jones starts crawling into the hole, taking the torch with him.
Planning my party that I'm going to have, and I think I'm just talking about now. My chums are going to be extremely impressed back in London when I have my dinner party and suddenly whip my box out. I tell you what.
I think that will make quite the stir.
I think I'd like to check out some of these symbols and see if any of them look occult to my understanding.
Okay, so Lord Percy, give me an occult roll. And Dr. Jones, you're just crawling through a hole. And Dr. Baker, you can give me a hieroglyphics roll. Sergeant, are you going after Dr. Jones or are you staying in here?
Well, Lord Percy seems to be relatively okay. He seems to be rather enamored with the walls, so I'm going to follow the tunnel down, follow Dr. Jones.
Okay, so the sergeant is going after Dr. Jones. We'll deal with you two in a minute. So, that's not ominous. Don't look at me like that, Tegan.
I got a critical success. I got a 1.
Yes, you did. Excellent. You got a 1 under 60. How did you do with your hieroglyphics there, Dr. Baker?
45 under 70.
Okay. So we'll start with you then. On your ordinary success, you don't find any cartouches on this box. But the hieroglyphs are talking about he who reigns forever.
Sorry, he who reigns what?
He who reigns, as in rules, forever. And it also refers to the servant, eternally waiting.
That doesn't sound good.
Doesn't it?
That sounds really bad.
So, Lord Percy, with your critical success on the occult roll here, you pick up a few things. Some of these symbols don't look Egyptian to you, actually. They look older. These look like some older occult symbols, but Dr. Baker doesn't seem to have noticed them. And one of them is an invocation of protection against some great evil. It's kind of like an earlier warding of the evil eye, except it's not for an eye. You're not quite sure what it's for, but you recognize the way it's constructed. This is a symbol of protection. And then there is another symbol on this chest that is essentially, as far as you can make out, crouching down and looking at it a little better, this one is eternal life. It's a symbol claiming eternal life. You have to find more of them to figure out if it means this is eternal life here, or is it asking for eternal life on behalf of the person who owns this box, but you definitely recognize that symbol. And then you also find a set of very odd symbols that you've seen in some old Mesopotamian scroll somewhere, representing different parts of the body, but the organs. You see a brain, you see a set of lungs, you see what looks like a liver and a stomach, but like these are all twisted around with occult symbols for protection as well. But with that critical one, you notice the heart's missing.
I say, it seems like someone's been interfering with these symbols, because there should, surely by my reckoning, be a heart included with these organs, and there isn't. I've noticed there's a terrible amount of protective rituals here, so I'm going to just head back and pick up the dog as well, and I'll carry that under my arm. So now I'm sort of dual-wielding protective devices.
You're dual-wielding mummies.
Yes, I'm double mummy. So I think it's all a little bit sinister and not terribly valuable looking. Maybe we'll find our way out soon. I'm starting to feel rather uncomfortable with all this, I must say. Still, though, I have Charlie here, and this fella under my arm here is Godfrey.
Godfrey and Charlie. Okay. So, meanwhile, Dr. Jones and Sergeant McCoy.
Yes.
You crawl through this opening into the other side, this other room, as far as you can tell. And you stand up, holding up your torch or your lighter, whatever light sources you're using. It takes your eyes a second to adjust as you look around. And the reason it takes your eyes time to adjust is the sudden bright glinting from all around you as your light strikes gold.
Oh.
This is a room of treasures beyond your wildest expectations.
Dear God.
There is a giant golden boat just in the middle of the room, one of these Egyptian river boats with oars made of gold and gems. There are ostrich feather fans. There's other jewel boxes. There's giant clay vats and jars that look like maybe they hold grain or something. Silver containers. There's a chariot made out of gold and bronze with these exquisitely designed horses pulling them, furniture and gems and necklaces, and there's clay tablets with carvings in them stacked up to one side. There's papyrus scrolls on the other. It's just, this is 3 times greater than what Howard Carter discovered in the tomb of Tutankhamun. This is amazing.
Christ on a cracker, Percy. Are you ready to be on the cover of National Geographic?
You hear that yelling from the other side of the plaster wall, because you haven't gone through yet, Lord Percy.
Percy hurries through. He pushes his spirit wards through first and then sort of crawls through after them. He's very excited about this. Almost drops his cigarette, but manages to keep it in there. Okay.
So 2 mummies come out through the hole, like some strange reversal of birth. And then Lord Percy follows after. But while that's happening, yes, Sergeant, there are piles of gems and necklaces and things, all sorts of jewelry.
He picks up and eyes a few and pockets one.
Okay, just slip
Nothing but the
into the
land.
pocket. No one will notice. Dr. Baker, are you coming through with his lordship, or are you staying in the tunnel?
Oh no, I'll be going in because hopefully there's something that will tell me who this is. There has to be a cartouche.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know the name of this pharaoh.
So you are all now, plus the 2 mummies, plus Charlie and Godfrey, you are now all in this treasure room. And Lord Percy, it's like in cartoons, where characters look at money and their eyes just turn into dollar bill signs. That's kind of what it feels like.
Does this discovery, will this reflect in an increase in my credit rating statistic?
If you can get it all out of here, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So the sergeant is off to one side a little bit, looking at some piles of gems and necklaces. What would the rest of you like to do as you look at all of this treasure?
I want to see if there's anything flammable in here.
Give me a luck roll.
Okay. It's like that, like when like they find like the 300-year-old thing in like National Treasure and they still light a torch and it just goes on for like 3 minutes and just lights
Yep.
everything up. What was it again? It was
Luck.
luck. That's an extreme success.
Roll 20 likes you guys tonight so far. Good. Get all these good rolls out of the way early on. All right. So you see, Dr. Jones, you're looking around. You see some pots of what look like they could contain oil based on other excavations you've been to. And you see these long torches in a container, the kind that you have to carry with either one hand really strongly or 2 hands, because it's more like a long pole, like a spear, that you light the end, and it should give you pretty good light.
I would like to make 4 of those and hand one to each person.
So you all now have a light source, although I don't know how you're going to carry one, your lordship, considering you've got Charlie and Godfrey.
In between my teeth.
I would say that perhaps one of them could serve as a torch, but honestly, the idea of 6,000-year-old burnt dog hair is not that appealing.
Not really.
I'll just hold my hand out. I'll take one. I have a free hand.
Oh, very good. Here you go.
Now you have 2 torches, and I have a spare, and I also have our spiritual protection with us.
He gives you his torch, Doctor.
Yeah. So now you're dual wielding.
Listen, I'll take.
All right. So what are you doing, Dr. Baker, Lord Percy?
So I'm also trying to So one of the main things about old Howard Carter the Farter's discovery was that he discovered the name of this pharaoh was Tutankhamun, as mentioned previously. I think that I'm going to need to know what tomb this is, for fame purposes, you understand. And so I'm going to look around. I'm going to consult the list I have of mummies I'd like to find, or MILFs. See if there's any corroboratory details that I can match up, so I can figure out whose tomb this is.
So you're looking around, trying to figure out where this fits in things. Do you have archaeology?
Technically, yes.
You could try rolling it. I'm sure you only have base in it, but you can.
So my skill was a 1, and I rolled 99. Is that good?
That is a fumble.
Confidently incorrect.
Yes. So you, Lord Percy, are absolutely certain you know who this tomb belongs to. You are absolutely positive you know exactly.
Chaps, I figured it out.
And this has to belong to a Pharaoh Thutmosis the 7th of the 18th dynasty. You are absolutely certain you heard that name once and it all makes sense.
I repeat this information to the party with the utmost confidence.
Thutmosis?
Thutmosis, yes.
Where did you find the cartouche?
They're all over the place.
Well, then you should show me where the cartouche is, because I happen to know exactly what they look like, and I'm not seeing one.
I don't know if I hired you on this dig so that I could show you the cartouches. You just simply, I can't do everything around here, all right? I'm very busy. I've got a lot of administrative tasks that I'm working on in my old brain case as we speak. But I think you'll find it's that fellow. It's Mr. Thought.
Can I roll psychology?
You could. Okay, so you can roll psychology, Dr. Baker.
The sergeant also lights up a cigarette and then uses the smoke to once again look for drafts.
Okay, so give me spot hidden. All right, so Dr. Baker, how'd you do on your psychology roll?
16 under 50, which is a hard success.
He's absolutely sure of things. He doesn't think he's bullshitting you. He's sure he knows.
I'm going to actively explore this further to try to see if he's right or not.
Okay.
In the words of a great man, I ain't found shit.
So, yeah, you're not able really to figure out too much at the moment as you're kind of lost in all of this pile of treasure, but you do think you see, this is a big room. There's got to be things on the other walls, right? Maybe if you move around, maybe you'll find something. So, Dr. Baker, you go looking for this cartouche. You can't find where you are. You can't find anything, so you think maybe I'll move around and see what I can figure out. Your eye is attracted by this stack of clay tablets, and there's hieroglyphs written on them, and what looks like a cartouche at the bottom.
And
give me a hieroglyphs roll.
Oh, man. I got a 13 under 70.
Okay, 13 under 70. So you read this tablet as everyone else is moving around you looking for things. The sergeant's lit up a cigarette and seems to be trying to follow the smoke. Lord Percy is waving mummies over things to dispel the evil spirits. But you get engrossed in this tablet. It takes you a minute, and it appears to be a song of praise, like a worship song almost. It says, "Hail to the Lord Undying. Hail to the Keeper of the Nile. Hail to he who destroys our enemies and crushes them into dust beneath our feet. Hail to the Lord Undying." Over and over. And then you get to the cartouche at the end, and it says, "The servant of the messenger of the gods."
And that's all it says.
It appears to you that whoever wrote this cartouche has taken that as their name. And as you're looking at this and reading this, I'd like you to give me a power roll.
That's an unusual roll for that. I got a 76 over 50.
So, Dr. Baker, you're reading this tablet, and you just find yourself kind of mouthing the words to this hymn. It's kind of under your breath, that's all. Just, it's the repetition in how it's written is very soothing, very calming.
What does it say? Is it my thought, chap?
I believe we are, in fact, our situation is not improved. I think we're still trapped. For now.
Trapped with all this gold, though.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
You do know that you cannot breathe gold, right, Lord Percy?
Well, I shall bloody well try, I tell you what, with this much gold. I'm sure it's all going to be fine. Let me soothe you with my management training. I want to do a psychology roll.
Okay.
To make everyone feel a lot better about our situation, which is absolutely fine.
It's totally fine.
And I got a success.
So he's soothing and calming. You're right. You're going to be rich if you... When? You get out of here.
Everyone's getting a £5 bonus once we cash all this in. I tell you what.
I hope by that you mean, you'll be filling a £5 sack with everything we can carry.
Oh, indeed.
So, is anyone moving around the room outside of this area where you've been standing and looking at things?
That's what I have been doing with the torch.
And I am joining Dr. Jones with my cigarette, watching the smoke to see if it's being kept or wafted on some breeze. Wharfed.
I'm checking with Dr. Baker because I'm about to be proved right, where it's it's Thoth the Mummy that we're looking for here, and I sense a cartouche is imminent, and I will be proved correct. So I'm over there looking smug.
Dr. Baker, you find yourself just sort of tucking this tablet under your arm. It's just there. You need this for something, right? It'll be important later.
Are there other tablets that I want to look at?
Yeah, there's a whole stack that you can go through.
Oh, fantastic. I'm gonna, sit. Are they all on the floor?
They're stacked up so you can sit down and just start.
Oh, fantastic. So yeah, I'm gonna sit down and just put this tablet in my lap because I have to take it with me. And I'm gonna start looking at the other tablets.
All right. So, Dr. Jones and Sergeant McCoy, you go looking around this room. You move through some of the piles, and everything is stacked so high up in here that you realize you couldn't see the rest of the room. And, Sergeant, that's why you couldn't track your cigarette smoke. There's just too much stuff in here. Uh-oh. And so you move past where this archway with the plaster was, and you find yourself in a bit more space. And you can see more clearly the rest of the room. And directly in front of you, so right across from where you came in, is another one of these stone archways, but this one is open. To your right, you see another stone archway covered with a slab, similar to the one that you saw back in the tunnel. And there's what looks like two statues standing in front of it. And to your left, there is this beautiful, massive mural, some kind of painting on the back of the wall. What do you do?
I'm going to check them all for signs of the occult.
So
that's my only good skill.
So which place are you going to, Lord Percy? The mural?
I want to do the paintings.
The paintings. Okay, so you move off towards the paintings, leaving Dr. Baker with her stack of tablets. Sergeant, Dr. Jones?
Well, I believe one of these statues can only speak the truth, and one can only speak lies. That was a joke.
That's good. Because I'm honestly up to my knees right now, Dr. Jones, with coping. And while I am trying to keep a brave face on it, the concept of being buried under the sands of Egypt is less than appealing. So, should we perhaps, as they say, get a move on? Leg it towards the exit?
Absolutely. I want to move past these. I mean, is that what it is? You can move past the statues into the next space, or?
The statues are by the stone slab, and then the way in front of you is clear, as far as you can tell. That exit, if it is an exit, that opening.
I trust Percy and our other good doctor. Because we all have torches, I don't mind taking the sergeant a little farther away from them. I have never, ever seen a problem splitting apart.
Okay. So the two of you move in the direction of the open hallway. Lord Percy, let's deal with you first. So you move towards the back of the room. You're looking for confirmation about this pharaoh, who you absolutely are certain it is, but it would be nice to have some physical proof, right? So that no one can say that you're wrong or even cast aspersions on your veracity. And so you go wandering towards the side of the room, and you look and you see this massive picture. And it's very interesting to you because the colors are so bright. It looks almost as if they could have been painted yesterday. That's how vibrant and fresh they are. And it's a little odd, though, because it's this set of scales, massive set of scales. And on one side is a human heart, anatomical human heart. And on the other side, you think there should be a feather there, right? That's normally how these things go. The feather of Ma'at, the feather of truth.
For a feather.
Mm-hmm. But there's dead animals. There's a hawk and a snake and a crocodile and a hippopotamus and a stork and an ibis and just these dead, rotting corpses, and they are painted extremely realistically. There's flies buzzing around them that are so vibrant you swear you can hear the buzzing. And then you see that instead of what should be Osiris, there's this just kind of stone cold figure with a mask. Stone mask. And kneeling in front of it, instead of Anubis, the one who would weigh the heart before the underworld, you see what looks like a pharaoh. He's wearing a kilt, that white linen kilt with a belt. He's wearing the crowns of Egypt, same one that Dr. Baker pointed out to you in the hallway. He's also got a leopard skin draped across his shoulders, but he is the one kneeling here. And you don't see any sign of Anubis. So you can give me an occult roll, or you can give me Egyptology or archaeology.
I'm going with occult, because I don't see Egyptology on my sheet. Kablam! Success.
Okay.
Everything always works out for the nobility.
It does. You must have bribed Roll20. So with your success here, you knew that something felt a bit wrong. You couldn't quite figure it out, but you realize what's wrong here is that you know that the heart should be weighed against a feather. And if the heart is lighter than the feather, then whoever's heart it is can go into the afterlife. And if it's heavier, then they get eaten by the crocodile god and their soul is lost forever. But those animals, they look to you, Lord Percy, like the animal avatars of all the different Egyptian gods. There's Horus's falcon, and there's Tawaret's hippo, and Sobek's crocodile, and yeah, that's blasphemy.
Dr. Baker, can you come and look at this? It's, now, this seems to me like rather an easier test to get into the afterlife, is what I'm currently thinking. Because I'm aware that, of course, one's heart must be lighter than the feather, which is quite difficult, because even sort of quite a normal heart, the feather's terribly light. However, they've gone for a rather more forgiving version of the afterlife test here, where one's heart merely has to be lighter than a pile of dead gods. So all I'm hearing is good news here. I think we've found rather a generous cult of the traditional Egyptian religion. What do you think?
All right, so do I manage to pay attention to what our benefactor is talking to me about, or am I really focused on these tablets?
No, you can hear him. Just still kind of hearing that chant, hymn, whatever it is. It's just so calming. But yeah, you can hear what he's talking about.
Okay. Then I will get up with my tablet and the one torch that I have now, because the other one has been abandoned on the floor, and walk over and look at the hieroglyphs that are kind of in this area to see if he's right.
He is right. This is very wrong. It's very wrong. This isn't accurate. But something in your brain, Dr. Baker says, but that's okay. He'll figure it out. Fine.
Shows what they know.
So, Dr. Jones and Sergeant McCoy, Doctor, as you're going towards this open archway, give me an archaeology roll.
Yes. I have lots of that. That is an extreme success.
Ooh. All right. So, Dr. Jones, as you and the sergeant are moving towards this archway, you look around at all the different treasure and the furniture and everything, and something was bothering you, and you couldn't quite figure out what it was until you saw the whole picture. This is a weird mishmash of time periods. When you go into a tomb, you're expecting things from one particular era, one dynasty, right? This has all of them. That chair over there, that's the 18th dynasty. And that chariot, that's a 3rd dynasty construction over there. And that one is 30th. Where did all these things come from? And why are they all in one place? They shouldn't be here. You even see some coins as you pass by that look like they should be from the more Grecian era, the Ptolemaic Egyptian era.
God, this is like how many thousands of years?
I know, Dr. Jones. It's honestly, we could pick worse environs to die in, I suppose.
No, look at this. This coin has the likeness of Alexander the Great on it. That's
Fantastic
not...
chap. Look at that nose.
Yeah, but the sheer width of... This isn't something that just got locked away. It's like
a storage room.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
Like a repeated...
Tell me, Dr. Jones. Again, I'm security, not history here. My question is that if they build a tomb, didn't they usually just use it the once?
Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
Who did you hire to bring us out here?
Well, I didn't hire anyone to bring us out here. In fact, I believe, I rather remember that we were perhaps drugged by a young man when we had tea yesterday.
But that's who I'm talking about. Never mind. I have a bad feeling.
Well, I'd rather join you in that one. I also have something of a bad feeling about this, but I've had bad feelings before, and, well, post the trenches, I'm still alive, so a bad feeling does not mean the end of a man. Come on, Dr. Jones, let's find a way out, shall we?
And you hear a shout that says, I'm trying to allay these feelings of badness. You hear Percy say, Sergeant McCoy, Dr. Jones, come here, we found a rather wonderful portrait of a bunch of dead gods.
And I think that is where we will end the first episode. Thank you all for listening. We hope you will tune in next time for part 2 of the Necropolis. I'm sure nothing can go horribly, horribly wrong.